Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you in the old TV studios here in the Extreme Studios in the Pine Hills Palace just west of Orlando, Florida. I have from the Great Midwest One RDV. And tonight we are going to review here on Extreme TV, our television review show, a continuation of a show that we had a lot of positive things to say about. And RDV, I must admit, when we talked about The Old Man with Jeff Bridges and John
Yep.
Lithgow, I thought it was last year. Silly me. No wonder I don't remember a lot of it till I really dove deep and rewatched the first couple episodes that have just come out, episodes 1 and 2, which we're reviewing. It's been 2 years. A
Yep.
lot of positive things to say about the first episode. I think we disagreed a little bit on what we wanted to kind of get out of it, and not that it was necessarily done bad. But we're going to review some of those things here as we go into the first 2 episodes, which everybody can go currently check out right now, too. What's your initial take on these 2 episodes? And then I'll give mine.
All right, getting back into this, I'm trying to remember what's going on. All I know is that him and John Lithgow have to go to basically the Middle East for something. As soon as the show came on, I started watching. I was like, everything came back to me instantly. You say it's been 2 years.
Approximately
I
2022,
actually,
I believe.
as soon as they started going through, started telling things, I'm like, I started remembering everything.
Yeah, it's interesting how that happens, right? So I think that's a function of storytelling, because you're right. I remember going, what the hell's going on here? And then when I went back and rewatched it, it started clicking. And the basic gist of it, for those who are not familiar with the show, it just got a 2-episode drop here, and the 3rd episode will be starting, I think, on Thursday night here in America, in the United States. Is you got an older guy who, and this is what I loved about the first season as it segues into the second. You start off with an older person, Jeff Bridges, who's, I think it's Vermont, and we don't know what he is, but he might be suffering beginning stages of Alzheimer's or something, right? He's an old guy, literally the old man. Or is he the old man? But what's really cool is he had those 2 Roddies in his house. Somebody coming and tried to kill him, and then you find out he gets involved in stuff because he's an ex-CIA spook. And so what happens is it untangles this big web of stuff that eventually lends to where John Lithgow, somebody he had worked with before, and they have a past together, is cut with the B storyline of them being younger and how things came up. And it involves the Taliban in Afghanistan at the time when they were young men in war, and the fact that his daughter, the freckled-faced lady, who's actually a government agent, turns out she's really the daughter of this terrorist that he ran off with the dude's wife way back when, and it became his wife.
Basically, because he was on the run from, and he was most wanted man because he is considered a traitor as far as Jeff Bridges' character, because he was working with the Taliban to take down the Russians, and that story was he defected. But then, because he got involved with this woman who is the leader of this camp, Faraz Hamzad, his wife, pretty much, who is a smoke show herself.
Yes,
we're led to believe that he fell in love with her, but everyone tells her that she's a manipulator, even Faraz Hamzad, and even Jeff Bridges mentions. But he took her, smuggled her out with the help of John Lithgow out to America, and because the fact that he's a wanted man back in the United States, as far as Jeff Bridges, but he needed an ear close to what's going on, so he had his sister create her new identity is Angela, and basically she got into the FBI, and the crazy thing about this is that John Lithgow's character had no idea about this, and actually took a shining to her because that was her mission, like he turned her into a good little soldier and everything. So now, because Faraz Hamzad wants her back, was making moves against him, and he's forced to go with John Lithgow back into the Middle East to get Angela, who was kidnapped by Faraz Hamzad's man, because she got on a plane like an idiot because she wanted to know more about her real father. And now she's in this. We don't know. We're led to believe in this first episode that she's been kidnapped, or at least she's in there with the old man. And it's really cool to see 2 old guys, 2 old actors like this, going it's just real. It's like if Solid Snake, when those who played Metal Gear Solid, when you get to the really old version of Solid Snake, and he's like, "Fuck, I'm going back in. I don't care." It's like or Rambo, "I'm going back in." And these guys, it's kind of like we're too old for this shit, but we're going in it. And John Lithgow, his character has always been kind of like the FBI handler. He got him what he needed, but he wasn't the guy on the ground. It was Jeff Bridges' character. So he's the badass. He's the one that's feared by the. There's because they said there's this they come across these two guys. They're supposed to contact to get them in there. They're not sure what's going on, but they're running in the back of his truck. Their guy gets shot. They found the GPS. Jeff Bridges saying, I kind of know this country. They find this place in the middle of nowhere. He says, if I'm resistance, I'm going to find here. Turns out the guy wasn't who they thought he was.
The old switcheroo, and if he was such a slime ball and you couldn't see that coming, shame on you.
Yeah. He's Taliban intelligence. They end up having to flee on horseback. Only after Jeff Bridges gets stabbed in the arm, they go and they end up at this cave where he used to basically says that, and then John Lithgow's like, why are we here? Like this is where Angela's mother used to hide out, Abby. They get away from her husband at the time, Faraz Hamzad, because recap about this guy, the reason they left him because he was after this rich mineral deposit. The Russians were after it, and so was he. And they decided, Abby knew where it was. She said, he's too power hungry. If he knows where that is, it'll turn him into a madman.
One thing they don't mention, and I think we talked about a little bit with the season one, what you're talking about here with the Afghanistans and the Russians is the Russian government at that time, its incarnation fell like in the late 80s, early 90s, and something different now. So back then when they were with the Taliban, which have been around forever, you have your different sections of your Muslims. And, again, we're not being political. We're talking about the time in the show, what was representing. You definitely have the Russians trying to get in there because this huge mineral deposit, which is, I believe, lithium, something that's needed. So it's a resource. So it's got value to it. So you've got these two competing camps. So basically, I believe Chase is the name of the character, Jeff Bridges' character. He basically, I think something happens to him where he just gets a flip of humanity where the switch goes on. He's like, I'm going to run off with this woman to be my wife. We're going to take this young girl who, because she's in the room, I cannot kill this terrorist leader, which was my job. I know I'll be on a run. And I'm going to sound cheesy saying this, but it's kind of how it's presented. But love and a normal life is worth it. And I don't begrudge that because this is stuff that we find out as season one unfolds, right?
Yes.
So now we're realizing that his daughter's got daddy issues. Of course, she wants to know the reality of it. No,
they were
there. Could she be a double agent? Is John Lithgow dirty? Because it's mentioned that they need to get a woman to help get him out of this mess. They're arguing about it, and it's somebody that we don't know who it is. Yes, but we find out later that was John Lithgow's ex-wife, right?
Yeah.
So here's the thing about the show. You're right. When you start watching it, it does start coming back to you even after 2 years. I think that's a testament to what they're trying to do. I'll throw a few quick observations into it because, believe it or not, we've actually talked about a lot of the first episode, and that's this. It's a very damn good-looking show. It shines when these two guys are on screen together doing stuff, interacting. I think it's best when you're visually seeing what's going on. Even when he has a fight with the guy half his age or like that and bites a big chunk of his face off after getting stabbed, I'm like, you know what? That's kind of cool, and that's difficult, but you can see him struggle doing it, right? It's believable.
Because they set it up because the guy he tackles him out, and he lives in this camp, and all the men are dead, and he's like,
dude's hanging from the tree.
Yeah, dude's hanging from a tree there, and then at this point, Jeff Bridges tells John Lithgow, call Marianne. It's time to call her. So he calls her, and she's like, "How are you here?" He's like, "Well, our guy's dead." He's like, "Well, did you meet with Ali? Whatever." He's like, "Who?"
Who?
and he really realizes that the guy they're with is not who he's supposed to be. Well, Jeff Bridges already suspected this. The guy they tumble. He stabs him into the shoulder, not all the way, not enough to pierce his heart. But he's getting there, and he's like,
who's torturing him, trying to extract the info.
And he told him about this man. He talked about how the importance of how Faraz Hamzad is untouchable because he's go between the Americans who sanctioned this mine. I forget what it's called. Lithium.
It's a lithium mine.
Yeah, and the Taliban are working with him. It's like, who is this man? He's everyone else. They have the United States has a list of names, but not his name. Why is he so indispensable? Who is this woman that no one will speak of? As I said, and he'd already set up the story perfect, talking about how the American who betrayed Faraz Hamzad. He was this warrior. He was the Baba Yaga, pretty much, of their people,
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, you didn't want to cross me. He's like, is this story true? And he's like, he basically, yeah. Then you see, like, it's just like, this is some John Wick. He bites his like his throat, his lip, and he starts ripping. I was like, oh man, and I love it. Like he kind of he does that, and he tells the guy after he's like, some of it's true.
Well, the thing too is he had this reputation as being younger guys, basically being that guy, right? The killer. I mean, not just a fixer, a killer, an eliminator.
Can we bring up the fact that this goes from Jeff Bridges to a younger guy who looks like Jeff Bridges?
He does.
And, you know what this reminds you of?
What's
You've been
that?
watching it on Apple TV. You were watching it with Kurt Russell and his son.
Oh, the
Monarch.
Monarch TV show. Yes,
And
that's the only thing worth watching on that TV show is the interaction between him and his son.
The reason I bring that up because Monarch is doing the same thing. They got a guy who looks just like Jeff Bridges, or not Jeff. I mean, it just looks like Kurt Russell. It's Kurt Russell's son.
Now this guy, Russell, yeah.
But this guy is not Jeff Bridges' son, but he looks damn like him, and I love it. It's like every time they show flashbacks, I'm like, yeah, I want to see more of this guy because this is like him in his prime. I want to see what he's done, because when they showed him the first season when he was behind, then he was sneaking up on the Russians, the camp in the rain and the nighttime, and he just shows up like the Punisher and just like rambles.
Yeah, right behind him with the light flickering. That is a cool look.
Like I said, it's like, oh, that is so badass. So every time I see him and they show that flashback, I'm like, then it reminds you that this sweet old man is a deadly killer. So it just reinforces what his character is. But the other thing I want to bring up is that it is called The Old Man, but we've met two old men. Is it about Faraz? No. Is it more about? Lithgow. Is this Faraz Hamzad's story,
right,
or is this Jeff Bridges' character story? Who's the old man in this? It's called The Old Man, but I don't know which one is the title character.
And I have to admit this, because this was a negative for me going in season 1. The one thing I didn't like about the storytelling part of this is when it started off, I was so intrigued by not knowing who he was and how he was watching. I still remember the scene to my dad. I thought it was incredible in episode 1, season 1, where he's walking in a small town and he just sees people that just for some reason seem to blend in but don't quite, and it's that intuition. He's an old guy and he's got his dogs are well behaved, and then when the people, whoever it was, will go to so the guy breaks into his place, tries to assassinate him. When he sicks the dogs, I'm like, fuck yeah, that's good stuff. And I really loved seeing the fact that, okay, it's about a life that he had before, you can't outrun your past, sort of thing, which we get. And I really thought the show would be more about him struggling for it. But instead, and again, without knowing anything about the books that are taken off, it's really about this whole political story. And so to me, the thing where it shines the least is when you get into the Afghanistan, where you get into the potential big, global conflict sort of stuff. I get that's the backdrop, but I don't give a shit. What's always interesting is how it's affecting the people and all, because really, this is a drama. It's not an action show. Definitely by these 2 episodes, I think that's pretty obvious.
Yeah. After we talk about the second episode, I'll talk about the importance of the lithium mine, importance of this political backdrop, why it's important to the show. But yeah, at the end of the first episode, he's wounded. They get on him and John Lithgow on the horse. They escape. The dirtbikers can't go them because they go on through these mountains, and he ends up back where Abby used to be, this little cave, and he gets his supply kit he had there from like 40 to 50 years ago. Like I'm sorry, if there's a first aid kit in there, it's expired. Anyway, yeah. So I don't. Hopefully,
you're asked to believe some of that stuff. Yeah, and you're like, man, come on, it's working. Don't do something stupid like that.
So he tells John Lithgow, go call your wife, and he calls his wife, and she, like, when he talks to her on the satellite phone outside the cave, and I love this because he's like, your ex-wife called. You told me you were done with this life. She's a dangerous person. Don't trust her. He's like, well, in this life, there's some things I have to do. I can't always talk to you about. And Marianne is in charge of the FBI or CIA, and he's trying to get her to get him some more more help, because the help they were gonna have would be probably like 20 men, and just to get them in the compound, to get in the caves. Yeah, that's not happening. Because that guy killed all the men that were killed there was killed by the Taliban spy who killed his men. They're supposed to help him out.
Supposed to be a heavy, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So now they're kind of screwed. And now, so now Jacqueline Lithgow's got problems. He's like, are you coming home? It's like, why are you even doing this? Like, and he's like, they're having issues. Like, and just like he's having issues with his wife. But not only that, while he's laying in there, Jeff Bridges, because he starts hallucinating and stuff, and he's kind of like he's slipping up against a rock. He's got his wound, and it's already been taken care of. He wakes up and he looks over. You see John Lithgow's passed out in the cave. Just sleeping. He's up. There's a fire, but then he sees this man standing, and or at least behind him, he sees it's basically Faraz Hamzad as a younger self. And he's telling me, and he's basically taunting him, and he's like, "Why are you even here?" He's like, and stuff. And when he wakes up, and because he basically was going to give up, and John Lithgow told him, "No, we're not giving up on her." He's like, "It's been 3 weeks. We get a timetable now. It's been 3 weeks. She's most likely dead because the minute that he sees Abby in her, he's going to kill her. He hates Abby. And he's like, so." And Jonathan is like, that's bullshit. He's like, well, I've been lying to myself and trying to get this fantasy tale that I know that maybe there's a chance that she's alive, but I can't do this anymore. He's like, you need to go home to your wife, and there's nothing else from me. I will stay here, And John Lithgow will give. I love that John Lithgow will give up him. But at the end of that episode, there's someone standing at the mouth of the cave. I think
dun, dun.
Yeah, so we don't know who it is. Yeah,
2-year delay, not delay, but 2-year time frame. I think that's.
Was that
there may have been reasons which I have not bothered to research why it took so damn long.
Yeah,
maybe because of COVID and all that. I know Bridges had an issue with cancer or some health related thing. Apparently not too serious, but enough where I guess there's a delay, something, whatever. And they're older guys, but it's a good show and it's great acting. Again, they're making the backstory more important, rather, at least so far, than some of these things.
Well, not yet.
It's a slow burn, though.
Yeah, it is a slow burn. All right, second episode, we don't get mentioned of John or anything really other than, but basically the aftermath effects of John or not. I think is his last name. Is his first name? I can't remember. Is it Dan? Chase. It's Chase and basically Jeff Bridges' character and John Lithgow. We'll go with that. It's easier.
Harper.
So because what happened with them with the Taliban guy, they managed to get away. That guy eventually will show up at the grounds where basically Angela is being held. And at first, she's not torturing. They walk her into this room. And she left there, and she's kind of like, she's pissed. And the first thing she's doing, she's basically taught survival. Look for something you can use as a weapon. And she finds this piece under the aluminum frame, or I guess you call it the like cheap beds they always have. Yeah, the cots they always had in the 60s stuff, the spring stuff. She grabs up metal off there, and then she starts sharpening in the meantime. But then people come in, obviously they're giving her food and stuff. They're not, she's not being assaulted.
Good looking shawarma type food there. I couldn't tell if there's any meat in there or not. But
I don't know, but I'm hungry after seeing that.
Looking stuff,
I haven't eaten yet. So
they break in the old. I want to say this is an 8mm thing.
Yeah, this old film reel and stuff, and projector. I'm thinking like, is it run on batteries? Because where the heck is there an outlet in there? That'd be stupid to have an outlet in a little town. And I don't think they have electricity. They might have some.
They do. They've got some.
Yeah. But anyway, she flips it on, and basically
home videos, baby.
Home videos of her and kid.
Taliban edition.
And he'll show us how Faraz with her when he's little, and he's calling her, and she learns her real name and stuff, and she starts crying. Meanwhile, outside the building, you can see the light flickering on in the room. She watched 3 or 4 times, and you get a shot of him, Faraz Hamzad, on his little front porch or whatever, and he's singing along because he remembers the memory. And so after that, she's basically says they give her these new clothes, wear this, and then he goes to meet her, or she goes to meet him in like this little cemetery, gives a spiel about, this is your grandfather. This is your great grandfather. How they're honorable men and stuff, blah blah. Mm-hmm. And then
here's your family, dear.
Yeah. And he asks her, "Why are you here?" And she says, "Well, you kidnapped, you abducted me, and blah blah blah." No. Then later on, after meeting with the head, I guess she's the head female in the rank now. After Abby left, I don't know if she's like his booty call or whatever, or companion, but she says is like, dude, this is not how we're this plan to go and stuff. We need to talk about this and stuff. Then the Taliban dude shows up. This was the guy from the first episode, the one that tried to kill them. And he basically tries the strong arm Faraz Hamzad. He's like, rumors are you have a woman here, an FBI agent, and like and all and stuff. And he basically tells him that he's like, dude, you want me to call your uncle? You little piece of shit. You're nothing. You got passed off for a command position.
Yeah, and here's the thing: we're being introduced to some characters we haven't seen, and some are getting some more airtime. These things happen, right?
Yeah.
So again, I'm not saying it's bad, but for a season now, we've pretty much been dialed into these main two ones, and maybe
Yeah.
Abby a little bit. The shot of her in the cemetery with him, sitting under the tree. It's just such a gorgeous shot because you see the mountains there, and I don't know where they filmed it. I don't really give a rat's ass, but one thing you and I have always talked about in the Extreme Movie Show is, again, CGI versus practical. This just looks good watching it. Obviously, it's digitally shot and everything too, but it's, even if you don't like the aesthetic of what people are wearing and all that, it's just really beautiful when you're outside looking at it. It's not all these cold offices and military buildings and DC and all that other kind of stuff. So you do feel like you're there. And I give the show a lot of props from when they're going back and forth, not just in time, but also in location, that it does feel like this. It's like this gigantic spy. Like we always talk about James Bond being a Playboy fantasy, right? You're hopping around to different locations around the world. Well, you definitely get that here. And this episode, to me, I'll just go out on a limb and say this. I think it's the weakest out of many of them, only in that the function of it to me seems to serve as saying, okay, viewer, we're going to give you a shit ton of backstory and dialogue with people standing around talking and this and that to kind of set up the rest of the season, sort of thing. Again, these things happen. I'm not a big fan of it. I understand it. But this starts turning into like a political thing where I'm like, okay, I want more. I want to see my Jeff Bridges character and John Lithgow. I don't want to see these other guys.
All right. So basically, as you're hearing the gunshot and stuff, after Faraz Hamzad does enter the cave, you see him, call back the first episode, and he walks in there and he has a gun, and you hear he basically raises the gun up toward confirming that he wasn't a vision. He actually was really there in the first end of the first episode, and he raises the gun up towards Jeff Bridges, and then you hear a gunshot, and that's it. We don't know if he killed him or whatever, but I got a feeling. So my predictions for the season: the two men who hate the most are going to be forced to team up again.
That's not bad, but here, and I like where you're going with it. I was going for a different direction, and that they always talk about leaders. They always talk about, a good man has a good woman behind him, that sort of thing. Always interview this, the spouse when you go to a big business decision, if you want part of her team, all these old school things that people don't want to talk about anymore.
Yeah.
I'm really actually fascinated by the whole thing with Abby and the woman that I think is actually running the show, and the guy's just the figurehead. And I just feel like we only got a taste of that in season 1, right? Because even in, I'm not saying the show has to be 100% accurate, and of course it's TV in Hollywood. Why would we think it is? In a lot of religions, though, women are generally at best thought of as property or second-class citizens. I am not getting that vibe the way some of the head women are treated in here. Yeah. So when you see her struggling to kill the guy, when she's in the room and all that, too, kind of accepting, hey, this is where I'm at, what's going on, and waiting for the person I call daddy to come get me. You're going to be sorry. When the older lady comes in there and talks to her, I'm like, this is interesting. Where is this going? Yeah. I'm convinced the older lady here is the one pushing everything. Because they go back to the same sets they had in season 1, where we see her being a younger woman, being more of the visionary of what's really going on, and the guys just execute. You see them manipulating things. And to your point, you made it early on tonight. That's what's going on with the manipulation with the women.
Yeah, and as I said, his right woman in command, is she Farazma? Is she gonna betray him? She become the new thing, or is Angela manipulating him? Or more like you said, like we also got Feroza, whatever her name is. This was her cousin, who they're not allowed to speak anything but English to her under the orders of the head lady, and like I said, like who can you trust? Remember, this is spies. That's all this was. It's a spy show. So tons of people, you can't trust each other. Like I said, I'm just waiting to see what's going to happen. But I got a feeling that both old men are going to be, as far as you're going to have John Lithgow, you're going to have Jeff Bridges, and this other guy, Faraz Hamzad, are all going to be forced to work together to go against the Taliban. And who, as far as Angela, will she want to leave Faraz Hamzad at the end of this series, or will Faraz Hamzad die, or will Jeff Bridges die, or will she die? Like, you don't know. That's what I love about this. Like, but I said I'm looking forward to the next episodes. Probably thinking next Tuesday. Probably revealing Tulsa King. I'm thinking.
Yeah, that just dropped.
That just dropped too. So that episode's out. Probably. So we're gonna switch gears from some movies released on
Tuesdays,
and start getting back in the Tulsa King. Great show. Season 2 just dropped. With that being said, though, honestly, this is such a fantastic show. There isn't any shows on. This is FX. You can watch it on FX now, or you can watch it on Hulu. So check it out, man. If you haven't seen this, it is a great show. And like I said, I don't care about Jeff Bridges and all what his political beliefs are or whatever. It's not in this.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that the show's kind of doing well with all the backstory and with again, your religions, politics, whatever. They're not saying, oh, these Republicans, these Democrats, conservatives, liberals, these neocons, these this, that, these New World Order, the Illuminati, the this, that, the Davos group, none of that stuff. It's just these are people, they're in situations, they're explaining it to you, you recognize them and you see them. It really is about like family ties and, again, not being able to outrun your past and the consequences it has on you in the future, whether it's with children or relationships. And I think what you're saying about them having to team up, we're seeing the seeds of that being planted now with the younger guy who's on the other side that, seems like he's a bit of a schlub, but you're like, you know what?
Omar.
Yeah, he's got he's got things to it. And we also see with, I think I was calling her Abby, but it's Emily.
Emily is what they call it. Yeah. And Angela, I guess
the daughter
is the daughter, but she also goes by Emily as well.
Okay, so it's she has an interesting look, being massively freckled and all that, and but she's obviously going to be more in play this season. So I'm going, maybe her and the old woman team up. I don't know.
She has 3 names. She's Parwa, that's her birth name. Mm-hmm. But then when she moved to live with Dan Chase or whatever we call him, lived with Jeff Bridges. They called her Emily because they took on new identities.
Yep.
Then when she went to work in the FBI, she used the name Angela.
Yeah, and again, for a show being almost 2 years old since the first season, you do kind of get caught up. It does come back to you. It's still very good. It's one of the few shows that has what I would call a starring cast that's generally older people. I don't have a problem with that. Well, Monarch sucked as a TV show, but Kurt Russell's fantastic with his son. I like seeing these kind of things because we're starting to see the emphasis on some shows about family.
It's the deliverance of everything. The fact it's a slower paced show makes sense because they're old people.
Yeah.
So I don't mind as much because it actually pays off. It's something that happens there. Ultimately will affect something that's going to happen. It's not just like, there's like it's one of those. It's also a show that keeps you guessing about what's going on. But like I said, my prediction, because the 2 men who hate each other the most are going to be forced to team up against the Taliban.
I'm saying like I did at the end of episode 2, season 2 of Columbo. Where's the damn dogs?
Well, this isn't the first time these guys were forced to team up together and and kill off Russians. So why would they not be begrudgingly worked again? And and I love those situations as like who's going to betray each other first? Or is it going to be the right hand woman who's going to betray them?
It's the women.
All I know is that Omar is a young impressionable Taliban spy who wants to make his ranks up. Who's going to kill him?
Yeah. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. The Old Man, season 2, episodes 1 and 2. We're going to switch gears here. We're going to go live here in just a moment on our other stream that's posted. That's going to be covering Terminator 2. Yep. Yes, that Terminator 2. So we'll see you here in just a minute. Good night now.
Later, guys.